The atmosphere is heavy with a sudden, silent tension. A man, dressed in a crisp white formal shirt, stands with his back to us, his posture frozen in a moment of hesitation. In front of him, a woman is partially visible, draped in white fabric that catches the light. A single large speech bubble containing only a question mark hangs in the air, capturing the man's quiet confusion as he tries to process the situation unfolding before him. The focus shifts to the woman, her long, wavy auburn hair cascading over her shoulders. She looks away, her face flushed with a soft pink blush of embarrassment. Her hand tightly grips the white sheet against her chest, a protective gesture of modesty. She speaks her thoughts aloud, the speech bubble reading, "I think I should get dressed first." The vulnerability in her voice is palpable as she seeks to reclaim her composure. The man begins to react. A small, stylized chibi version of his head appears in the corner, sporting a wide-eyed, slightly stunned expression. He utters a simple, soft "ah" as the realization finally clicks. The frame focuses on the woman's slender arm and the shimmering light reflecting off the fabric, emphasizing the delicate and somewhat awkward intimacy of the encounter. Understanding the need for privacy and decorum, the man turns away. We see his tall, slender frame from the waist down as he walks across the room. His hand is clenched into a firm fist at his side, perhaps a sign of his own inner fluster or a determined effort to remain a gentleman. He moves across the patterned wooden floor and onto a soft, plush rug, heading toward a specific destination. Finally, the man reaches a woven basket. With a decisive grab, his hand reaches down to pick up a folded pile of clothing. The sunlight streams into the room, highlighting the textures of the fabric and a nearby vase of flowers. By retrieving her clothes for her, he silently acknowledges her request, moving to resolve the awkwardness and provide her with the comfort she needs. Having retrieved the clothing, the man returns to the woman's side. He leans over the bed with a respectful distance, his shadow casting a soft silhouette over the white sheets. The woman sits huddled, still clutching the fabric to her chest, her gaze fixed downward as she feels his close proximity. The air between them is thick with a quiet, polite tension as he prepares to hand over her things. As he moves, the soft rustle of his shirt and the movement of the sheets fill the silence. The camera zooms in on the woman's face, revealing her wide, trembling eyes and a deep, unmistakable blush spreading across her cheeks. She murmurs a faint, bashful, "Excuse me," her voice barely a whisper as she remains overwhelmed by the intimacy of the moment. The man extends his arm, carefully offering the bundle of folded clothes to her. His other hand rests steadily on the bed for support, keeping his posture composed even as he stays close enough to reach her. She remains tucked behind the white sheet, a delicate figure waiting to accept the items that will allow her to regain her privacy. As she takes the clothes, the man begins to pull away. His hand lingers for a split second on the edge of the white bedding, his fingers light against the fabric as he starts to stand up. A curved motion line indicates his graceful retreat, showing his intent to give her the space she requested. With a final, gentlemanly gesture, he ensures she feels completely at ease. While his hand still brushes the edge of the sheet, he speaks with a calm and reassuring tone. His final words in the scene are, "Take your time. I'll head out first," providing her the ultimate courtesy of privacy as he prepares to leave the room. The atmosphere in the room is thick with unspoken tension. A tall, well-built man with dark hair turns his back on the woman, his posture rigid and indifferent. He tucks one hand into his pocket, signaling a sense of clinical detachment from the situation. In the foreground, the woman is seen clutching a white cloth or garment to her chest, her face partially obscured by her long, wavy auburn hair. A subtle blush creeps across her cheek, hinting at a mixture of embarrassment and agitation as he prepares to leave her presence without a second glance. As the man begins to walk away, his voice cuts through the silence, heavy with a sense of superiority. The frame focuses on their physical proximity, or lack thereof, as he continues his exit. He speaks of a performance or an act that has just been validated. The woman remains frozen, still holding the fabric tightly against her, her silence reflecting the weight of the power dynamic shifting between them. The confirmation, he mentions, suggests that a test of some kind has just concluded. Just before exiting, the man pauses to glance back over his shoulder. His expression is sharp and piercing, his dark eyes narrowed with a look of intense scrutiny. There is no warmth in his gaze. Instead, it is the look of a hunter or a businessman who has just secured a favorable deal. His sharp jawline and perfectly styled hair give him an air of untouchable authority, leaving the woman under the pressure of his final, lingering observation. The focus shifts to the woman, her face now fully visible and flushed with a deeper crimson. She looks downward, her eyes wide with a blend of apprehension and internal conflict. Above her, a speech bubble carries the man's final ultimatum. Contact me if you decide to take my offer. The sitting behind her looks like a dressing room or a bathroom, emphasizing the vulnerability of her current state compared to the cold, transactional nature of the offer he has left on the table. The final close-up reveals the man's lower face, twisted into a subtle, confident smirk. He is no longer looking at her, but his internal monologue reveals his true thoughts. She's meticulous. This realization seems to please him, confirming that she is a worthy pawn or partner for his future plans. The smirk sound effect emphasizes his victory, showing that despite her hesitation, he believes he has already won this psychological game.
The confrontation has ended, and the man finally makes his departure. The sound of his heavy footsteps, clomp, echoes through the room as he walks toward the plain wooden door. His back is turned to the viewer, showing the crisp, broad lines of his white dress shirt, symbolizing his return to a world of order and control after the intimate tension of the previous moment. After he leaves, a heavy silence fills the space, represented by a jagged, radiating speech bubble that poses a single, haunting question. So why? It captures a moment of deep internal reflection or disbelief, as if the character left behind is grappling with the logic of the offer just made, or the dark reality of the situation they are now entangled in. The narrative shifts to a more clinical, investigative tone. A hand reaches out to flick through a set of documents, revealing a clipped photograph of a handsome, light-haired man. A handwritten note at the bottom of the photo identifies him as the only son of Dong-un Group, marking him as a high-profile individual of significant interest. As the investigator digs deeper into the file of the subject, Dong-sung Lee, the grim details of his private life come to light. The document lists his address in the Sangbuk neighborhood of Seoul and reveals damaging investigation findings. The records include a history of purchasing illegal sexual enhancement drugs and a pattern of soliciting prostitution and frequenting illegal entertainment venues. The polished image of the corporate heir is shattered by these revelations. Back in a modern office, presumably at a prosecutor's or investigator's desk, the dark-haired man from the earlier scenes reviews the file. He wears a professional blue sweater over a collared shirt, his expression unreadable but focused. As he holds the incriminating paperwork, a thought bubble expresses his sheer disdain. How did she end up with a loser like him? It is clear that his interest in this case is not just professional, but deeply personal.
The scene opens with a tense atmosphere in a modern office. A light-haired man in a white dress shirt leans toward his colleague, his expression a mix of suspicion and concern. He pointedly asks if the investigation currently on the table has anything to do with the Dong-un Group, a powerful corporate entity. His voice carries a hint of disbelief as he questions the possibility of them ending up on the same side of this conflict. The camera shifts to a low-angle shot from behind the dark-haired man seated at the desk. He remains composed, his posture rigid and professional. Without turning around or showing a hint of hesitation, he provides a short, clipped response. Not exactly. The ambiguity of his answer fills the room with an unspoken tension, suggesting that while the connection may not be direct, it certainly exists. The light-haired man isn't satisfied with such a vague dismissal. He continues to press, his logic sharp. He notes that his colleague isn't the type of person to make specific requests or move pieces on the board without a very calculated reason. Then he brings up a critical piece of information, the close relationship between the chairman of Dong-un and the chief prosecutor, implying a web of corruption that they are dangerously close to touching. The focus shifts to the dark-haired man's face. He looks down at the documents in his hands, his eyes shadowed and unreadable. He offers no rebuttal, no explanation, and no comfort. This heavy, prolonged silence speaks louder than words, confirming that the stakes are much higher than he is willing to admit. He holds the papers tightly, caught in the weight of his own secrets. Finally, the light-haired man realizes he won't be getting any more answers today. He lets out a deep, weary sigh, raising a hand to rub his forehead in frustration. The stress of the situation is visible in his furrowed brow and the slight perspiration on his face. "Never mind," he mutters, deciding to drop the subject for now, though it is clear the suspicion will continue to linger between them. Standing firm, the seated investigator justifies his relentless pursuit of the case. He expresses a firm belief in the integrity of his office, stating that a prosecutor should never be forced to tiptoe around those who are simply covering for their colleagues during an active investigation. His resolve suggests a man who values justice over the internal politics of the prosecution service. The dark-haired man's expression softens slightly, moving from cold professionalism to a rare moment of camaraderie. He looks up with a small, genuine smile and offers his gratitude for the help he has received. To ease the lingering tension, he makes a light-hearted promise. "I'll buy you a drink next time." The light-haired man, still feeling the mental exhaustion from their heavy debate, responds with a mix of exasperation and amusement. As he prepares to leave, he dismisses the offer with a huff, muttering about his colleague's use of flattery to get his way. Despite his complaining, his body language suggests he is familiar with, and perhaps even fond of, this stubborn side of his friend. As the light-haired man walks away, his internal monologue reveals a deep, underlying anxiety that he didn't dare voice out loud. He admits to himself that he has no idea why his colleague is so dangerously obsessed with this specific case. A dark thought crosses his mind. If this investigation goes south, the dark-haired man risks losing his entire career. The final shot captures the light-haired man pausing, his hand raised as if in a gesture of lingering concern or a sudden realization. A small sweat drop and a startled punctuation mark indicate he is still processing the gravity of what was discussed. He is left standing in the office, looking back at his friend, fully aware that they have just crossed a point of no return in their investigation.